Welcome to Soul Conversations, Emerge and Flow. I'm going to say it one more time. Welcome to Soul Awakening Conversations, Emerge and Flow. Welcome into this comfortable, grounded, energy safe conversation. I said it just the way the divine wanted me to say it. Energetically safe. It's a conversation. The guest, David Gaines Jr., is going to be with us, and we're going to ask some questions about emerging and flowing in his body, mind, and soul state. How he got there, how he continues to be there, how he serves, what his service to community is, what his service to self is. And this is not a place of judgment. Take what resonates and leave what doesn't. So I'm going to let him know that we're here, just in case sometimes I notice my notifications are not working correctly. So let me just let him know. All right. Here we go. All right. And I just sent it off. And, here he is. Just as I sent it off, here he is. We're going to say hello. I'm going to view the request. And as I view the request, there's going to be a silence for just a moment. So bear with us. I'm so excited.
What is up, Sandra? Happy Friday to you.
Happy Friday to you. Thank you for being so patient with me.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if you can see the people joining, but as soon as they say hi or hello, you should see the comments. I'm
Okay.
not.
I do see one. Kiki Blunts, what's up? How you doing? And it's okay. Like I understand things get kind of crazy. Life be lifing, right? Things don't be working out all the time, so it's all good. Like like I said, always take your time. There's never no pressure. You're good people.
Yeah, it is one of those days where, you know, there's the combination of learning new skills behind the old skills. And then
Hmm.
sometimes the energy of the computers or phones or whatnot, they're kind of lagging or whatnot. Everyone, I notice when I click the wave button, it makes all the comments pop up in front of his face. So I'm one of those, I just want to see his face and have a conversation. So as you come in, I'm just going to say welcome in. All right. And hold on a second. I have a glitch here. Hold on just one second.
No problem. Take your time.
All right. There we go. It's gone. Anyway, so what I was telling a lot of people, what's different about this podcast that I have this year, as opposed to the last 2 years, is it's not only just about your awakening moment, that moment that you had your awakening, and we normally just talked about that. It's about emerging through that, through your awakening and your growth, your learning, your applications to body, mind, and soul,
Hmm.
how you've grown to help others, how you've helped yourself, that, and where you uh, see yourself continually growing. So basically, my questions, I've got 3 questions that I'm going to ask you. And then I have a bonus question that I will ask you. But before we do with the questions, there is something that we talked about I was on a live with you. And towards the end of the live, we had started to embark on helping men that are being abused,
Hmm.
right? And about them not knowing the spiritual information behind why they're in abuseful relationships, why they continue to be in abuseful relationships, why there are just now beginning to be meetings and people understanding that men have as much abuse, not maybe not as much abuse. I don't know about that as women do, but now it's becoming understood a little bit more. Right?
Yes.
So, can we start with that first before I just dive into my questions? Because you had some really good information, and I really want to get this out there.
Hmm.
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And when it comes to men in domestic violence and abuse, I will say that we tend to suffer in silence a lot. And I don't necessarily know exactly where that comes from a spiritual level. This is something that I'm honestly still learning, and I haven't even necessarily fully processed my domestic violence situation yet, which is interesting because I've had a lot of time to do so, but it gets into that to a degree that emerging into integrating within your higher self, right? So maybe you can start off with telling us how that affects us spiritually. Let's get into that, and then I'll kind of piggyback off of you on that.
Okay. So, what I found out, which really blew my mind, okay, so I found out I had started reading this book called Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh.
Okay.
My best friend, one of my best friends told me, Sandra, by the time you get to his book 3, it's going to blow your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And book 3, chapter 2, it started to blow my mind because in it, the Neil Donald Walsh asked God in his conversation with him, how did man of mankind did man of mankind create the devil? And God told him, before we get into that, I need you to understand this point. And the point was, and this is the book. This is the third book. Okay.
I'm definitely downloading. Like I'm gonna put it in my notes. I'm gonna remember that one.
Right. And and so and I'm going to give you the shortcut version. So he tells Neil that there was a point in a vibrational time where it was matriarchal, okay, and through matriarchal they didn't experience wars or whatever, that cold kind of thing, but
Mm-hmm.
men had a different role, and they weren't included in like governing and whatnot. They taught the children. They took care of kind of basically what everything that women were doing now, that we're kind of like breaking away from, that thing where it's all, women should just be at home, take care of the kids. They, don't speak when you talk, unless you
Yeah.
talk to, that
Gender
kind of thing.
roles. Those gender
Yeah,
roles. Yeah.
but it was more of it had a good vibration to it, but it was the same as what we women experience now, or we were experiencing. Except what happened is the men had a coup. And when they had this coup and they overthrew it, what they did was they erased it from information, right?
Mm.
And
Okay.
I'm just kind of like, you would really have to read it, and then you're going to go, ah, Sandra just gave me not even the Cliff Notes version. Okay.
Got you.
So what happened was they kind of erased it from uh, uh, the, the information of history. And they, what they did was they decided, men of that mankind decided to keep their own story. Now, their story was based on their three lower chakras. They
Mm, okay.
bypassed their heart chakra and went straight to their, tried to get straight to their intuitive chakra.
Okay.
Okay. But they couldn't get there because they bypassed the heart chakra. So they had to go into their egoic system, right?
Okay.
So this is why sometimes you don't see love being the main ingredient of why men do what they do. They're doing
That,
it from a common sense kind of, let's make sense of it kind of thing.
yeah. So yeah, a
So
lot of it based on mostly logic, right?
right,
Yeah.
mostly logic, because they bypass the heart chakra, where that women in that particular time that God was telling Neil about, they were mainly through they were embracing all of the different chakras, but they weren't allowing, women weren't allowing both the yin and the yang,
Okay.
right, of both male and female to work, to be in wholeness as they took care of this society.
Got you.
So, I mean, I read it several times, and guys, you can go and read it. It's Conversations with God. It's book 3. I believe it's book 2, chapter 2, or book, I believe it's book 3, chapter 2. And then that brings you into why man also created a devil, is so that they could have control.
Got
Now,
you.
what, in my meditation with the divine, it's like, why do you keep bringing this up to me? The divine says, well, you have to know, and you say you want to help. You have a lot of, I have at least 2 male family members who don't understand why they're being in abusive relationships, right? And abusive doesn't necessarily mean they're getting beaten, guys. It could
Yeah.
be, you could be just talked down so much that you don't have self-esteem. You don't have any of these things. And
One hundred
and
percent.
right? So, but at the same time, you can be abused by, guys can be abused by women who are alcoholics, full on alcoholics or drug addicts, or lived in life where they watched their mother beat their father, and then kissy kissy make up, and then that's what they think love is. So there's all these these moving parts to it of why, right? But the
And it's
main
very
in
subtle. It's very
it,
subtle too. Like the way abuse starts is extremely subtle. It starts with like comments, right? For example, a woman or a man or a woman, whoever is being abused, they'll you'll say something like, "I look really good in this dress. I feel really good," or "My friends told me I look like this celebrity," or whatever it may be. Anything that makes you feel good, and then the spouse will say something like, "Oh, you just think you're all of that," or "You just think you're blah blah blah." That's where it starts, because it's really it's a paradox. It's a reflection of, first of all, they're projecting on you. they're projecting onto you their insecurities and their lack of confidence. But in
Right.
a way, it's reflecting back to you an old version of yourself that wasn't as confident as you are today. You
Exactly.
right, and so that's how it starts, and then it gets worse. If you don't pick up on it, it gets worse, and it turns into more mental abuse. And then next thing you know, it's deep into your psyche, and you're lacking your confidence, and it's starting to show. And then that turns into physical abuse. It just gets worse and worse until you actually have to learn to identify that, right?
Right.
So, yeah, it's an
So,
interest. Yeah,
yeah. So the step that I I that got downloaded to me is men, and this has been going on a long time. So it's almost like it's ingrained in their DNA that they learn that their feelings their feelings are negated, and they get to negate their feelings. It's not that somebody else is negating their feelings. What your feelings got to do with it? Kind of like Tina Turner's "What's Love Got to Do with It?" Love doesn't have to have anything to do with it. Buck up, little camper. Don't you cry.
yeah,
Kind of like bury that, hide it, you know, that kind of thing. So that we got to this point where even if a man is being abused at home, he's not going to go and tell his best friend, because
right.
otherwise he's not a man, right? He's not going to go and talk about it at work. Matter of fact, work is his escape from home, just like it's the escape of a woman that goes to work and escapes, her home life and that abuse life, whether the woman is being abused by husband or boyfriend or even children,
Hmm.
right? But women have more of an outlet to work on themselves and open up to themselves. They're more free to deal with their emotions, right? And it
Yeah.
goes back to the fact that when I read the conversations with God, that men decided to the vibrational spiritual man at that point, that wasn't aware that they're not separate from God or whatever,
Yeah.
separate from the divine, but in that vibration of what they believe is wholeness, they don't need to judge anything by love, because what did love do for them in wherever that realm was, however long ago it was. They felt um they felt boxed in.
Yeah.
They felt closed off because the balance wasn't there. The balance of yin and yang in both women and men, which is what God was trying to tell Neil Donald Walsh, wasn't there. So what we need to understand now is, or how we need, and the reason why I was discussing it with you then was I was trying to figure out how to make this not only a spiritual thing, because it's not just spiritual men that need to know this and then they get whole again and everything. It's all men in every walk of life that are having, or that might be having, this moment of abuse in their household.
And I think so from a
That's the
practical,
word.
yeah, like from a more
Practical.
practical level, what happens, this is what I get from it when I've reflected and meditated on it. When as boys, we're obviously taught when we want to cry, when we feel a certain way, we're taught to suppress those emotions. All
Yeah.
right.
Push them
What
down.
what happens is you're suppressing those emotions for so long, it becomes a natural habit, and you're not even aware of you doing it. So how this plays now, this is how crazy, it's insane how it correlates to men when they get to their 30s, because you do it for so long, and when you get to your 30s, how many times have we seen men change out of nowhere when they get to the 30s. They go through like this big shift. And that's because they, at some point, you can't suppress them anymore. Spirit, whether you're spiritual or not, spirit puts you in a position to where you are forced to look at what you've been suppressing. And they do that by taking everything away from you, and they isolate you from the world, which is why you see so many times, so many podcasts talk about men just need to focus on themselves when they're by themselves, because you're literally everything is taken away from you, everything you love. And
Right.
you're in isolation and you can't do anything else. And you're forced to look at everything that you suppress, and then you end up becoming a new man at that point in life because you gain wisdom from that. But everything that you suppress, it comes up. You can't suppress it anymore. And I don't know if that's necessarily by design cycles, but that's how it correlates to all men. And the ones who learn how to navigate through our life to this point, it's a gift. Because then in that same, and it's kind of a paradox because it's so painful, but it's also your purpose. That's why I tell people your pain is your purpose, because it gives it meaning, because
Right.
you felt it. You felt it. All of those emotions that you suppressed from 5 years old until you were, 28, 30 years old, that you suppressed, whether it be your parents, your relationships, your friendships, what happened at work, what happened, whatever it may have been that you suppressed, they will come up and you have to address them. It's good, like life, God, divine, it's going to make sure that you are put in a position to where you cannot avoid it. And that is how this correlates to this aspect of life for men and even women to a degree. It's hard for me to speak for a woman, but for a man, it catches him off guard, and it's difficult because he's never been emotional, or to how we perceive emotional. And when we see men crying on stage when they get those awards, crying on podcasts out of nowhere, it's because they've transmuted so much and they felt so much of their emotion after alchemizing it, they can't help but cry, right?
Right.
So that's how these things correlate to men when we get to our 30s, and when the world, they don't like the world in itself don't understand that aspect of it. They don't understand the why. They see that it's happening. They see that there's a pattern for men when we get to this age, but they don't get the why.
The
So
why.
yeah, so the why is important because it brings context.
Okay, so here's the next question. And I'm still going to ask my other questions, but to
Mm-hmm.
that, the question to now, I understand that works for when you're like working with men who are coming into their spirituality or part of their spirituality, and they're working through the alchemization process of healing and becoming more.
Yeah.
My question is, I'll pose it this way: do you think that it's possible for, like you said, sometimes men don't know that life has said, okay, I've showed you this so many times, and you're not giving me any information about what you want with this. You keep suppressing it. So life just kind of, life's energy takes that energy and just explodes it, right? So that you're going to have to feel it at some point. Do
Mm-hmm.
you think that men in general, not spiritual men, not religious men, just men in general, do you think there's a process where they can alchemize that pain without being told they need to be religious or they need to be spiritual? They're going to, some men might say that's woo woo, and other men are like going, nope, that's a religious thing. I'm not going there.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think there's a medium where we can teach this information generally to them to heal, so that they can heal themselves, so that they're not so interdependent on being told that they have to go to, a lot of men will avoid the whole situation of going to a shrink or a
Yeah,
therapist.
that's a good question. I think, ironically, I think we are the mediums. Uh, I believe to a degree it's always spiritual. I just feel like the challenge is the perception of what spirituality is. That
Okay.
can really, I think, is one of the core issues. And that's because there's so much distortions now. Everyone thinks that you have to wear malas and crystals and all these other things. And spirituality is ultimately connecting with your higher self in a unique way that you desire to do it. You can make anything spiritual. So I think that's kind of where it needs to start in terms of the perception of what spirituality is. But regardless, even with all men, yes, at the end of the day, we can do that without indulging in necessarily like spirituality or religion. But the the challenging aspect of it is we're not going to know how to do that. We don't even know where to start because there's no preparation for it. It comes
Uh,
up out of nowhere.
uh,
Like you're going to, I always use this analogy when people ask me about like my story. And I'm a big movie buff. And in Bad Boys 2, Marcus Lawrence, with him and Will Smith in the office with Captain, and he's like, Captain, I was at a family barbecue. Like, that's how it feels when everything happens. Like, you're just in your life, you're going about your business, and then some chaotic thing happens, and it's a domino effect in your whole world. And when that happens to a man, he doesn't know what's actually happening. He doesn't know that he needs to alchemize the energy. He doesn't even know that he wasn't even aware of him suppressing the feelings.
right.
So
Okay.
we kind of have to get to the point for men to understand what's actually happening, and then we have to create that space, or we can show them how to create their own space, because that's
Okay.
really the goal, right? Is to know that you technically don't need anyone. You can do everything yourself, but we all need someone to guide us through that, or through that process.
Right.
But it does start with being aware of what's actually happening, and men aren't aware. Like we're not aware of it because we're so logical, of everything. And the things that we're going through aren't logical. You getting taken away from everything in your life and you're forced to sit down and look at yourself is not logical to the man who's been taught to go out work and just provide for his family.
Exactly.
So
Who has
that's
been
kind of,
taught to go grind and,
yeah.
that whole kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so that's
that's what
kind of where
I'm,
we have to start, like,
yeah. Yeah. And I think with me, I'm kind of wanting, I'm wanting to, I know that it's yes, you hear my page or my page name, Soul Awakening with Sandra, and you think that it has to start there, but not everybody knows that they're there,
hmm
right? So that little bit of what did you call it before? Just kind of like that little bit of the human part of it. I mean,
yeah,
I know I'm body, mind, and spirit. And once I had my soul awakening, many of them, and I finally started to understand how everything started to merge together. That works for me. But sometimes when we're trying to help other people, it might not work for them yet because they might not be there. So I'm trying to figure out what the proper lingo would be to help more men, especially the men, the men in my family that I feel deeply for, you know, um, and but they're not gonna know. Go read I could tell them, go read, Conversations with God, and think that they're gonna get it. I
yeah,
think if I know that if you read Conversations of God, you would get it.
yeah,
Or you would get it enough to say, let me ask more questions. Oh, I'm going to
absolutely.
open. Oh, that's the can of worms that just got opened for me. Now I'm going to greetings, welcome in.
What's up, Greta? What's up, everyone? How y'all doing in the chat?
Um, so I just laugh because this. I remember hearing a friend of mine, and she's been spiritual a lot longer. She woke up a lot well on in like her 30s or 20s when I was still trying to figure stuff out. And she used to always say that sometimes you can't hit the nail on the head, but every once in a while, if you move the nail, you can you can find the placement. Some people keep
Yeah.
trying to hit the nail on the head, and and she said vibrationally, if you move the nail, you might get another possibility to hit the nail on the head. And I didn't understand what she meant right then, but then she said, "You." She told me last year, you were called to keep trying to figure this out, because it's not like I'm the only woman that's figured out that men have this information like written in their DNA. I mean, they've heard it so long that they just grown up with it,
Yeah.
grandfather, father, son. And this has been for, 1,000 years that men have been dealing with pushing down the emotion part of them. That it doesn't, little boys don't cry. They've
Hmm.
grown up with that, right? And when I thought about it even more when I was a kid, when I first heard my uncle tell my little brothers, or not my little brothers, one was older and one was younger, that little boys don't hit little girls. This little mind, this Gemini little mind, started to go to work. And well, if my brothers can't hit me, ooh, all the shit I could do. Now, shit wasn't part of my vocabulary back then, but my mind was going a mile a minute.
Yeah.
And it just so happens that my mother caught me early enough and me doing something and trying to manipulate them, and she put me in check really quick, right? you know that, no, that's not the way that's going to happen.
Yeah.
You can't just do anything you want to a man and expect a man or a boy, or this case she would use your brothers, to honor their honor how they're not to do what they feel they're supposed to do. Even though they're told that they're not supposed to hit little girls, they will figure out a way to make sure that they get you,
Hmm.
right? And it was like, okay, I've got that. So see, they've got all these little stories that come in behind it that that address the fact that men have got a lot of stuff that, even though they've got it pressed down, they're kind of like they're a powder cake. They're waiting to blow,
Definitely.
you know. And like you said, life is going to quarantine them, but you don't know what life is going to do as that catalyst
Yeah. To
to
create that
begin it,
environment.
right?
Hmm.
So it's like, okay, so how do you get that, you know is it a
I
process? I'm trying to even wonder if it's a process. Is it even a process that a woman can help a man with, without her being kind of, you know,
um
because she's coming from more like, she's very intuitive to her heart chakra. So she's going to be try to throw emotion at him when he might not be ready for it yet.
I think that's it. That's this is a tough nut to crack
It
because
is.
there's it's a complex thing, right? Um, First, men are already on the defense to a degree because they haven't been with a woman that trusts them, or been with a woman they actually trust. So
Okay.
when you aren't used to that, it takes time to decondition that thought process, right?
Right.
They aren't even at the point to where they're in the space to decondition.
Ah, okay.
So that's number one. And even the process of getting to the point to where like, life is going to create that circumstance for you. That process I've been thinking about for a long time, since for the last 2 and a half years. And I don't think there's really a specific answer to that.
Okay.
What I will say is I believe it seems to be correlated with um, intention and following your heart based on that intention. Because what happens is us as men, we just again will suffer in silence when you're in the relationship, but you're ignoring what your heart desires, which goes back to that bypassing the heart chakra, right?
Right.
So at some point, a man will get so, which kind of gets into how life kind of may create that circumstance where you get to such a point to where you're like boxed in and you have to tell everyone like, okay, I can't do anymore. This is where I'm at. And then if no one else agrees with you, you're kind of like, okay, well, you're out of my life, cutting people off left and right, because that's kind of that process that it's the result of you following your heart.
Right.
So I think, yeah, I think it
Except
has
they
a lot
don't
to do with
know
that.
that they're following their heart yet. They're just kind of there. That's where they're going. Okay, I'm just gonna go with this flow because this really feels good. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, and it catches everyone off guard, which I can understand now because they're like, what happened? But whether they intentionally manipulated you, gaslit you, or not, they it still catches them off guard because you take. It's not like you're rounding a corner. It's like you get to a corner and then you do a 90-degree angle. Everything changes after that. You just cut everyone off, and that process is hard to put into words, right? But I do believe it has a lot to do with um, following your heart, and even though you may feel bad about certain things, your heart still is such a powerful energy that when the spirit sees you following your heart, it's going to meet you halfway. It's going to meet you where you're at, and it's going to create those circumstances. So I think that's kind of like where that process is at somewhat.
Yeah. Got it. Whew. I love this conversation, and we could go on and on with it. But okay, so I'm going to ask my three engaging and flow-centered questions. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so the first one, and I wrote them down so that I could make sure that I asked them in the vibration of when I took them down way back when, right?
Hmm.
Okay, so you talk about bridging ancient wisdom with science to evolve the human mind,
Yes.
right? What does that bridge look like for you personally, and how do you walk in it in your own life and your work?
So first of all, what it looks like to me is I take a lot of wisdom from ancient texts like Egypt, right, Greece, and how they view magic. Magic is a living entity and energy that we can co-create with and use to again just create and manifest what we desire to manifest. So that's
Right.
like the ancient history part and universal principles. Understanding the universal principles is central to anything with metaphysics and all of that. So that's one part. And neuroscience for me is really neuroplasticity, understanding that our brains are not fixed tools. We've been conditioned to think that our brains, like, how many times have we heard someone say something like this is just the way I am, this is just the way I think, but
Yeah.
that's not true, right? It's called neuroplasticity because plasticity means to repair, neuro means the brain. So
Mhm.
you're repairing the brain by understanding as you desire to evolve, your brain is going to follow you in that process,
Right.
and it creates those new neurons. So when I speak about neuroplasticity and ancient wisdom, I'm talking about literally repairing your own mind with thought alone, the understanding of ancient principles and wisdom, and using that to create your reality, and understanding that we create our reality and it starts with the mind, which is God. So that's what I'm talking about when I say bridging ancient wisdom and neuroscience.
Kind of like from what the Kabbalion would say, all is the
Abs-
mind. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. All is the mind, and as above, and this is why the principles are so important, because this gets into metaphysics, right? When we talk about as above, so below, people can say that quote, but that means that whatever your cells are a reflection of you, and you are a reflection of the divine, and so on and so forth. So when we understand that there's chaos in the cosmos, in the spiritual realm, it's reflecting back here. So if you change your mind, you're going to change your reality. That's why I
Right.
say it's very important to understand this, the principles of the universe first, because everything revolves around that. That's law.
Right.
Yeah.
Everything evolves around universal and cosmic law, and they don't. They are a reflection of the divine, and they don't have any gray area. They're just not going to bargain with you. They're just going to say, "Hey, look, I'm energy. I've been given the task of creating for you. So I'm going to create whether you believe in the energy, whether you are conscious of the energy, whether you are aware of the energy. So whatever your thought is, and whatever the thought is that you have, and the vibration is that you're manifesting of the thought, I'm going to give that to you. It's pretty much your wish is my command.
Absolutely.
Pretty much, right?
Absolutely. And one of the things that I love to make sure I mention, because this was something that changed my this was something that just changed how I viewed everything outside of we create our own reality. And that was the fact that the thoughts that run through our minds are not our thoughts. They are they are concepts from the unconscious collective mind that we're all connected to. And I view it as like cars on a highway. Like if you're on the side of a highway and you're viewing all of these cars go by, those are your thoughts. Those are the thoughts coming from other people, from that's on the other side of the world, other planets, whatever it may be. But if there's a car that you like, you can stop it and test drive it, which is a concept. So you can say, okay, this is a good business. That's where those business ideas come from. Oh, this is a good business idea. How do I
Right.
feel about that? You hop in
Yeah.
that car and you test drive it, which is really quantum entanglement. And there's a phrase called state vector collapse. I'm not going to get into that, but it's basically when you're visualizing and daydreaming, and as you make decisions within the daydream of what you're doing, you're collapsing those timelines. And when you
Ah,
do that, you're exploring and experiencing the concept, because and the key is the subconscious mind. It doesn't know the difference between what has happened and what hasn't happened. So
right.
when we understand that, it brings a whole new perception to what you can actually do, right? So now dreams aren't just probabilities and possibilities. They are actually real life things that you're co-creating. So that's why I talk about neuroscience so much, because when we start to understand this as truth,
Mhm.
I mean,
It's like it truly is the what you could kind of say is the world truly is your oyster, right?
exactly.
Kind of like, the quantum within and the quantum without truly begin to merge for you, and then those infinite possibilities become that manifestation for you, right?
Exactly. They're
You know.
confirmations. The fact that one thing I'm looking at teaching is the process of the unconscious, the subconscious, and the conscious, and how they are is the process between them is how you basically track your manifestations. Because the fact that something is in your conscious mind, that's telling you that it's already manifested in the reality that you're in.
Hmm.
Now it's all about really refining that image, because you're going to get an upgraded version of whatever you view anyway. That's why they say don't get attached to the how it's going to look, because your our imagination is only tied to what we've experienced. But we are
Right.
getting it's like we have an outdated software. If you
Hmm.
want a new car and you're thinking, well, I want a 2023 Cadillac, you're not going to get that. You're going to get like a 2026 version of a newer vehicle that you can't even perceive because you haven't experienced it yet.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. But guys, we're not telling you not to go ahead and start somewhere. It's always great to start somewhere. I remember when I first my first interaction with the law of manifestation and the law of attraction was around 2003, when the DVD The Secret came out,
Mm-hmm.
right? Okay, and at that same time, things were going on in my life. There was two things that were going on with my life, and one was my first interaction with having radiation treatments, and having a lumpectomy removal,
Yeah.
and learning that particular thing, because I want to explain it the right way, because it was just kind of very basic to me, the information that was coming in.
Yeah.
So, they were teaching you that you could do everything with laughter and positiveness. And it wasn't that they were telling you not to think negative, but every chance you get, in order to create, you could create these, what do you really want to see? And people were doing their testimonials on this DVD, and they were doing the same thing about the neuroplasticity, and they had scientists who were talking about quantum
Mm-hmm.
entanglement. Uh, Michael Bernard Beckwith was on there, and I think her name is Denise Nichols. Is that right? I think that's her name.
I think I know you're talking about too. I got to put like names to faces, but
Yeah.
yeah.
And so I started learning that. And I'm going to tell you, like you said, life puts something in front of you that says, okay, you're ready to learn something. This is what you're going to learn, and this is how you're going to learn it. It's not like life said, we're ready for you to die tomorrow, or
Yeah.
anything like that, right? Life is just saying, okay, this is opening up. This is your homework, Sandra, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, what I learned at that point, they were still talking about, oh, you have over 60 million thoughts a day, and not all thoughts come to fruition, but the ones that you pick, you give energy to or fuel to, and those are the ones that the universe starts to vibrate on and will manifest for you, because that's the energy and the gas that you're giving to it. you
Absolutely.
you have all these non-attachments to these thoughts, but the ones that you latch onto, whether we consider them good thoughts or bad thoughts, that's only us, you
Mm-hmm.
know so from there, to growing to understanding it now, going, oh, i am I am my thought. Like when I'm daydreaming, I'm it. I'm
Mm-hmm.
it seeing me in it, in the thought. And
Yeah.
I get to say, do I want the thought? Do I want this sketch of what this thought is going to be? And then I get to say, nope, I don't want that. And then the thought
Exactly.
just says, okay, bye. Right? I mean, in kind of a way. It's
No,
not as
that's
easy. It's not as easy as that, because
it's
we're the human part of us.
absolutely, and it's not easy because some days it is, but we can have those chaotic days to where as soon as you wake up, you can kind of tell like my mind is just everywhere today. But I've
That was
learned,
this morning.
yeah, but I've learned. So what I've learned about those days is when those days happen, that's your breakthrough day, right? When you have those chaotic days where your mind is everywhere, your emotions is kind of all over the place, that's because you have quantum leap to a different timeline, and you are deeply integrating into that timeline. That's what that means. So now when I get, and it doesn't necessarily make it easier, but it makes it more simple so you understand what's actually happening. So, and I've taken so many notes on this is why neuroscience is so powerful when you understand the nature of the mind, right? Because the mind is not bound by time and space. Like, it's always quantum leaping to different timelines and looking at different possibilities. Like, it's a freaking future telling oracle. Like, that's what the mind is.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and yeah, like you said though, it's not easy, but it's simple. And I think that's the for me, the comfort level with it is it's not a complex thing that we need to figure out. It's just that when we have those thoughts, acknowledge them, but understand that if that's not what you desire to experience, then let it go. You know?
yeah. Just kind of just let it be, and that let it go be whatever it needs to be. And okay, now, okay, next, that kind of thing. As they're on a, thought, I learned it, I first learned it, that thoughts are like on a conveyor belt. And
Yeah.
you could just grab one and go, oh, is this for my highest and greatest good? Let me see how it feels. Let me try it on. Kind of like what we do when we go and try on shoes to see if they fit us, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I have always known, even as a child, that my brain was not my mind.
Yeah.
My brain is a reservoir that keeps the information for me. My mind is in every cell of my body, and every my mind is in every organ.
Mm-hmm.
This is why my body. This is why I believe our body talks to us through its mind. I mean, your kidneys, or your not your kidneys. Well, your kidneys flow and clean, and then your your system of where you've got to pee and poop. They're telling you we need to relieve ourselves. They're actually telling you this
Yeah.
this this these cells within there are saying, okay, here comes the pressure, Sandra, you gotta go. So, and then that kind of thing. Or your eyes are telling you, well, you're about to see the most beautiful, look at that sunset,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And it tells you, oh, isn't that beautiful? And it sends the information back to your mind, you know, and it gives you the visual, and then the cells in my mouth are speaking, wow, that kind of thing,
Yeah,
right?
because the body itself is a technology. We've been taught that it's just biology, but it's an actual technology. The nudges you get, right, like, if we think about it, you don't have to, if you get a cut, you don't have to tell your body to heal. It automatically heals,
Yes.
right? So, like, it's clearly connected to a higher consciousness where it communicates. So it's a literal technology, right? And I've just learned that I get, when I'm watching content or watching videos, there's little body nudges I get after certain information. And that's because my body is communicating with me like, hey, this is like a real absolute truth. And so I'll
Right.
take those notes, right? Or if there's some burdens that I'm releasing, certain parts of my body starts to respond. Like, I've started learning my body, right? And yeah, and this is the metaphysics of it, right? When we talk about body, mind, and spirit, it's
Right.
three. They're not separate, but they are three distinct entities that are integrating, and so that's how I view it. I view it as three different things that I'm really aware of, right? So,
Right.
and that's the beauty of it. Like, it's a beautiful thing.
It is. Welcome in, Root to Crown says, FY, I'm sorry, you have to forgive me, at FYP. Who is that? Oh, at
I,
Fox, I think.
the only I know for your profile. That's the only thing that I know.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, welcome in, you guys. If you have any questions for him, put it in the comments, okay? FYP. Oh,
For
for your page.
your page.
Okay. See, okay. So let's go on to the next question. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Science often focuses on the measurable and I'm sorry. I've got a glare. Science often focuses on the measurable and ancient wisdom often centers on mystical. How do you see these two worlds not as opposites but as allies in human transformation?
First of all, I believe they're different expressions of the same energy. It's just we call them different terms, right? Like in
Right.
science, they call it energy, and in spirituality, it's spirit. So it's really the same thing being bridged together, which is why these spiritual technologies and things along those lines are really coming up. And what was the second part of that question was
How do you see these two worlds not as opposites, but do you want to but as allies in the human transformation?
yeah, and both of them transform us in separate ways or in unique ways. And the way I can explain this is for science, we just got done speaking about neuroplasticity,
Right.
right? Neuroplasticity is science that we can use to transform and heal ourselves. And
Hmm.
spirituality is embracing the fact that you're not going to understand logically everything that's happening, but it's teaching you another way of living. And that offers you such a profound transformation because then you stop fixating on logical things in which you know, right? Science allows you to know, but spirituality allows you to experience. And and that's how I kind of view the two. And I think that's part of why I got into Vedic astrology so much, because it is a science, but it's at the same time transforming your psyche, and then it transforms you, and you end up having these mystical experiences because you start to understand yourself on such a profound and deep level
Right.
that it's unavoidable, right? So
Right.
that's how I view the two, knowing and then experiencing and bridging those two, and transcending both of them into a profound human experience, which is life.
I love it. I love it.
Mhm.
Yes, I love it. All right. So the third one, you said I noticed this in your profile page. You said that transformation isn't just possible; it's inevitable. What do you think is happening right now, collectively or individually, that proves that evolution is already underway?
Oh man, to be honest, we can start with the chaos in the world. When we read ancient texts, it always talks about really wars first, with two people kind of going at it, and it's an allegory of war, of chaos, and what that is talking about is creation.
Hmm.
Chaos is a form of creation because everything must be torn down before it is rebuilt.
Right.
So that's number one. When we see all of the wars with Palestine, Gaza, how there's a bunch of just, and even individual and collective wars within our cultures. There's wars
Hmm.
on every level. And so that's a given right there. And just think of how obvious the polarity between thinking is at this time, right? So I look at all of these things, and how we are interacting, and just again looking at Vedic astrology transits, looking at human design, and how the divine gives me these informations, and where we are at in time. That's what
Hmm.
astrology is. It brings context to where we are at in time.
Okay.
And when I view I don't know, I don't know if I should get into this, but there's a term called a saculum, and it's actually on the back of the $1 bill.
Oh, really?
And
Okay.
it's on the left hand side of the $1 bill, underneath I think the eye, the pyramid with the eye, and it says secular or something like that. But
Uh-huh.
what that is it's a reference to a year in how the ancients measured time. And every 20 to 25 years, there's a shift. And at the end of the last quarter, which is a century, at the end of that last 20 to 25 years, this is when the wars start happening because we are entering a new seculum. You
A
know,
new curriculum. Okay.
yes. And so that is what's happening now. We are in the crisis era and everything is changing before we head into the new seculum, which is it's basically a breakdown of the seasons, but instead of a year, it's 20 to 25 years, right? So the first 20 to 25 years of a new century is the spring. The second is the summer, fall, and winter. So we are
Okay.
in the winter time where death is inevitable because we are transforming into different people.
Right.
Whether people want to believe it or not, it kind of doesn't matter at this point because it's happening. And this is human evolution, and this is how we track time. So
Hmm.
that's how I know. And again, what I'm going through in my personal life, like 2.5, I'm on a 2 year journey where I woke up and it's like, what the hell happened? Like,
Yeah.
like what the hell happened, right? And so now I've gained so much understanding in what's happening, and that's what gives me so much like relative comfort in where we are at. Because no matter what I'm going through on a daily basis, I know I'm in my purpose and I know what's actually happening. We are literally ascending and transforming as a collective, as above, so below. And this is the opportunity to where millionaires and billionaires are made during this time.
Hmm.
This is how it all correlates to everything, right? When we talk about the Elon Musk, and they're like, I didn't know how this would work out. I started this business and I didn't know what it looked like. This is because they were dreaming so big, it was impossible for them to actually imagine it. So that's how you know when you are dreaming, when you can't see how something is going to happen. That's how you know you're in your purpose. So I say all of that to say that these are ways that I can see us being in a transformation, and Earth itself is transformation. She is transforming, right? And she's purging all of the things. This is why we have these storms. This is why we have, different
Yeah.
weather effects, right? Because she has to purge also. She's a living, breathing entity. And
And
so,
she's gonna purge it. She's gonna take care of
yeah,
herself. We can do all the talking we want to, and how bad everything is for her. But she says, I can take care of myself.
you feel
Just
me?
get it. Unfortunately, we might be in her way, but
Yeah.
you know what I mean. And
Yeah,
Root to Crown says money flows. I love that. Yes, money flows.
absolutely.
You know. Um, so okay, so here is my soul awakening conversation signature question. I and I just call it that. I don't know
Okay.
if you're gonna think it's that. In your own journey, through science, through wisdom, through the inner work, can you share a moment when you felt your soul truly awakening? When something within you began to emerge or flow in a new way that changed everything?
Man, that's a good question. That's a big question. There's multiple things that has happened on my journey. Uh, that I knew something was happening, but I couldn't explain it.
Hmm.
But one example I'll give is my relationship with animals started to become very interesting. And when it's kind of a process how this happened, and I'm kind of going to get up to like the actual point. But I started riding my bike. There was a trail behind my house that I sold at this point. But I was riding my bike on this trail all the time, and one day this hawk, it it was like 10, 15 feet in front of me, and it like spread its wings and it flew right in front of my bike. And I was like, what the hell? Like,
Yeah,
what? So
right.
next thing you know, I started I started seeing um this hawk more and more. And I ended up driving to Charleston. This was 2024, this is Thanksgiving 2024. I went to or not, no, I'm sorry, 2023. And I went to Charleston, and I was there for 4 days, and I came back, and I was like, I really miss my ride and my bike, and I wasn't gonna go. It was like 45 degrees outside, so I end up going. But before I end up going, the hot flashed in my mind, and I end up on my bike ride, and I'm coming around this marsh, and it's fall time, so like I don't know how I seen this hawk. I was coming around, it was sitting on a tree branch. And I promise you, I had a video. I don't have it anymore, but I had a video and I was recording it, and I was breathing so hard. I don't know if it was because of the bike or the fact that I'm sitting there staring at this hawk again after I just thought about it. So this is where I knew something crazy was happening. Later that night, I woke up randomly at midnight, and I still have this video. I woke up at midnight and I turned on YouTube, and there's a tail reader. Her name was Maji Got the Tea. I pushed the button, and immediately she said, "This video is for you if you've been seeing or dreaming with a hawk." I was like, what the I still have the video when I watched it. I was like, I got chills right now because I didn't know how to explain what was happening to me. I don't know how to explain it. And I can see how I can explain this to a person and maybe like I don't see the correlation, but it's just like the fact that there was a hawk communicating, and it was crazy how much it was happening. Like when I started seeing more and more, and there was even a time where it flew up on the freaking branch on a tree, and I actually have the video of this. I'm gonna send it to you. And I started recording the hawk, and I'm like, are you gonna let me are you gonna let me see you fly off this time? Because the last time when I was on my bike, I stopped the video and she flew off. So I was like, you gonna let me see you fly off? And she turned around and she flapped her wings. And she allowed me to see her fly off.
Ah.
So at this point, I was just like, I don't know what's happening. And this started to take away all of the doubt because I know I wasn't crazy. And I started having a lot of just supernatural experiences like this. Birds, all type of stuff. So these are the things that started happening to me. I'm not even going to get on how things started getting paid for out of just randomly out of nowhere when I couldn't afford it. So these type of things, you know. So
Right.
that's the one of the biggest stories that comes up for me when
Right.
asked about this.
Okay. Visionary G 928 says, when you feel compelled, do you listen to yourself?
Absolutely. Started talking to myself a lot more. And because when you talk to yourself, you gain so much understanding and clarity about how you think.
Right.
So yes, I definitely listen to myself, and I have recordings. Like I, a lot of times I use the voice recorder, and I'm recording my thoughts at times when it pops up in my head. I'll just be randomly walking, and then the voice recorder pops up, so I know Spirit's telling me, record yourself, you know. And then I'll end up re-listening to it later on, not to even see how far I've come, but to listen to how I'm thinking in that moment and
Right.
then use that as pattern recognition so you're able to like pinpoint, okay, these are my patterns around this time, like moon cycles and stuff like that. And so yeah, so I definitely always feel compelled to listen to myself, and I do it more and more often now.
Ah, wonderful. Uh, word,
Word up,
word
I
up.
do it
I
all the
do
time.
all the time. Yeah. So at this point, you get to ask me a question because it would not be a total conversation if we did not, if I didn't give you the opportunity to ask me a question. And normally I don't try to throw it at people and try to throw them off guard. But if you have a question, I'm ready.
My
Yeah.
my question would be, what do you feel right now is your highest purpose, and what are you practically doing to continuously align yourself with that purpose
My highest purpose
at this moment?
at this moment is service to others. Service to others, knowing that I'm always taken care of. It might not look that way to others, but I am
Yeah,
always taken care of because the highest purpose is me knowing that I'm part of the all. Okay.
absolutely.
Okay. So my service and what I'm doing right now is everything that you see. Everything that you see that is part of Soul Awakening Sandra from, mm, I don't know, the conception of growth and expansion of the last, I don't know, since 2019, since COVID and growth and since catalyst began life
Hmm.
began to show its catalyst of me changing and having that same question that I have as a kid, what now? Every time I have that question, David, what now? Life says, here it is. Do you want it? And I remember the very first time that I was in a yoga session by the pool where I used to live. And everybody had left, and it was just me and the yoga teacher. And we were talking about energy, and we were talking about, growth and expansion. And I was just, man, David, I was just on a roll. Just, I didn't even know. She said, after I finished talking, and she videoed it while I was talking, and she says, "Do you even remember where you are right right now?" And I said, "I'm sitting at the pool, aren't I?" And she said, "Well, wherever you were just before that, you were glowing." And ever since she showed me the video, because I wouldn't have believed her, but there was just like a glow. I don't know. Who knows? It could have been the sun decided to shine its brightest at that moment as it was going down. And I had said that's where I want to be all the time. And she said, "Well, you were talking about sharing information about manifestations, about energy, or that kind of thing." And that's the first time that she brought up to me, "Well, you need an Instagram page." And to tell you the truth, I knew nothing about Instagram. I did have a YouTube page, but I didn't do much on it, or whatnot.
Hmm.
And that's my my call to service. I think my that was my call to service. And when I mean service, I don't mean like going and walking with pamphlets or anything, though that's good service. I just believe that that was my calling. I didn't know how I was going to, do it. I knew nothing about doing videos or anything. Okay, so what happens there, and this is synchronicity. So she shows me her Instagram page before I left. I packed up all my yoga stuff and everything, and it was literally I had literally maybe a 3-minute walk from the poolside to my door, right? By the time I got to the door and opened it, my granddaughter at that time, she opens the door, she says, "Hey Nana, how you doing?" And she says, "What's wrong?" And I said, "Well, so and so told me that I needed to do, an Instagram page." She showed me a video of me talking about manifestation, and by this time, she's grabbed my phone. This is synchronicity, David. By the time I finished telling her what the teacher said, she had already set up my
Your
Instagram page.
Instagram.
And she says to me, "Nana, when you're ready, all you have to do is click this button. You can record. And then after you record, click the button again to stop it." And then, she said, "And then when you're ready to download it, all you got to, it'll give you all the prompts and you can download it. I'm going to tell you that that was such synchronicity in that moment. It was like, to me, it was like one long moment happening. Like, you know, kind of like, what's that, Home Alone, where the little boy puts the aftershave on his face after he's shaven, and you
Yeah.
go, right? That kind of thing. It was that. That's how I felt. That's how I knew this is this is my call to service, and this is me answering the call to service. And I've just been doing it ever since.
And that's so amazing too, because I resonate especially with the glowing reference. Because when I was in a gaming community on Twitter, I just like went ghost out of nowhere. Like I just literally went ghost, and no one heard from me in like 7 8 months. And then I remember FaceTiming a friend of mine FaceTime me, and when I was walking, he was just like I don't know if it's me, but like bro, you're literally glowing. I don't know what it is, you know.
Right.
And I remember saying that same thing you said. Like this is how I desire to be all of the time, you
All of
know,
the time.
all of the time, because it feels so good, you feel good, and it's reflecting back, your physical reality is reflecting back to you. But I just say all that to say that is amazing. And being and having those synchronicities, it's there's not a word to put to the experience, because when you experience it, you're like, I really, really, really love the divine. Like that's all you can really say in that time, right? So
Exactly. I
yeah,
really, really, really love being of service.
absolutely.
I love it. It's kind of, even when the divine says, Sandra, you have to take time for you. You have to take a moment. I'm going to give you a beat. You know, this kind of stuff. You know, like the divine says, okay, life's going to move. It's going to slow you down a little bit. You're going to need to slow down.
Mm-hmm.
I still, it's kind of like I desire to be of service somehow, some way. I can't, it's kind of like having that vibe, that uh, vibration, it in your ears, or I don't know what it is. It's like I can't do without it. Like I'm addicted to the divine.
That's how I feel the same.
Okay.
It's a burning desire that you can't put out. Like that's how I feel when it comes, because it's a mixture of being service of others, but also doing what you love. That's correlated with service to others. So when you find that mix, it's like finding gold, right? And you can't start like you. I'll never forget when I first awakened and I started getting these channel messages. I remember getting a message and it was like, you're going, like it's going to be hard to stop you from working. And at the time I'm like, nah, that sounds crazy, you know. But now I get what they're saying, because it's like I love reading books on these things. I love helping people, doing astrology, all of these different things. And they're like, you're not gonna be sad. Like you don't burn out for you to take a break. Like you have to take a break. But it's so hard because we love what we do so much. It's like I don't know. Like how am I supposed to stop?
Yeah, it's, I mean, until life kind of stops you with which of course, life did, life did say, okay, we got to slow you down, slow your roll. It wasn't like life was like saying you got to die now, but of course, they found another 20 years later, they find a lump, a little lump
Yeah.
my right. And this time, they've got a different the diagnosis was, it was, uh stage one, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they caught it early. They asked me what I told the divine, I said, well, okay, I'm not going to ask why me, because that's a question of me putting myself in a negative space. So
Yeah.
I'm going to say, why now? And then the divine, through my meditation, the divine said, well, hey, you're trying to help people merge modern medicine and holistic medicine. You're trying to help people understand that their spirituality is not based on the fact that they need to give up their modern medicine and to do holistics and not have the faith behind it to allow the holistic medicine to do what it needs to do. You're going to show people how to transform and how to alchemize. Well, in order to transform and alchemize, you need to know how to do it. So you have to start with you,
And
right?
I had the same thing happen to me, except it was pulling me out the relationship, pulling me out of everything else and isolating me. And it was like you now you're learning how to alchemize everything that's happening to you so you can create the reality you actually desire to have, that your heart desires, that you've been ignoring for so long.
Exactly.
And like you said, you can't control how divine spirit does it. They just do it.
They
You
just,
know.
yeah, they just, they just say, okay. It's kind of like having those divine spirits that wake up and say, oh, okay, it's time for us to, time for us to go to work. And they come on the scene and say, we're supposed to be here right now at this time to do exactly X, Y, and Z, so
Mm,
that she gets to have another story. And of course, the whole thing is, I learned it's like, okay, this is how transformation goes. Okay, I told the divine, I said, I wanted the greatest care team ever from the hospital. I want people that are going to be listeners. They may not agree with everything that I want, but they're going to be good listeners, and I'm going to be a good listener. My story isn't going to be about big pharma. My story isn't going to be about medicine and what the negative effects of some of the negative effects of medicine could be.
mm-hmm.
So it was about you know, me doing the surgery, them removing the mass, they asked if I wanted radiation treatments. I said yes, I did. The reason why I wanted them, I did it before. Now I understand a little bit more. It's about alchemizing the energy that comes from the machine that has a different story than the story that I'm going to give it, which is
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell the energy, which is energy from the divine. That's
Yep.
where the energy came from. That's how the machine got created, you know. And I'm going to talk when for that 5 or 10 minutes that I'm under it, I'm directing the energy. I'm telling it where it's going to go. I'm telling it what it's going to do. I'm telling it um, 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 what effects I'm going to have afterwards, which are no effects, because anything that's not for my highest and greatest good is going to leave my body immediately. And I was like,
100%.
oh, every time I went, oh, for the 6 weeks, this is what I'm supposed to be learning, because this is what I want to teach people. Will it work for them? I don't know, because their body, it's about how much energy they're holding for themselves, what their state of mind is, or that whole kind of thing. But I can give them the information, and I can tell them I did this, this, and this. And I mean, I talk about life stopping you right there and saying, okay, okay, Sandra, you're about to learn some more. And just a lot of people aren't going to agree with me. They're going to like want to say, well, modern medicine is evil. Well, yes, modern medicine will be evil if you want it to be evil, because it's energy and it's going to say, I'm going to be exactly what you want me to be. So it's going to
Mm-hmm.
be evil for you. But I'm going to say, whatever the story is for me, right? And then take away anything that doesn't work for my highest and greatest good, until I have enough vibrational holding pattern to allow holistic medicine to work better for me than modern medicine.
That's and
Yeah.
that's amazing. And it's funny how like similar we look at it. Um, I look at it from a perspective like kind of two macro perspectives. One perspective is we are in school, so when something profound happens or there's like a dramatic change, that means I changed classes. Spiritually, I changed classes, right?
Yes.
And so I'm learning a new skill set in life. And then the other version of it is okay, so you as a human being, how do you desire to experience? What do you desire to manifest and create while you're in this particular class?
Exactly.
So yeah, and it's an amazing thing, man. Like once you get on this journey and you see things, in my opinion, once you see things from this perspective, you are not going back.
There's no way. I've just said there's no way I can go back to sleep.
100%.
There's just no way that I can go back to. Yes, I believe this is my belief pattern is that we all as human beings are very conscious of the fact that we're living. We're conscious that that we live and that we die. We're not aware of the energy and the power that we have to control how we live, right?
Absolutely.
We life starts to give us little keeps dropping little clues for us so that we can become more aware of the fact that, oh, I'm living, I'm having this life experience, I'm creating all my experiences, I'm giving value to these thoughts that are energy that are just passing by, and I'm grabbing them and I'm giving them the fuel for them to perpetuate a story for me.
Hmm.
Some of us as human beings, we wake up to that. Some of us, the moment we wake up, we go back to sleep because it's like, shit, that's a little bit too much. And then
Yeah,
there's some of us that will never wake up. We just decided to be that body, mind, and soul that has an experience, and then and then we leave it. You get to I think an individual gets to decide what human being that, not what human, what part of that story is theirs.
absolutely.
You
I
know,
agree. And people like me, I woke up like, oh, this is what I want, like absolutely. And I think curiosity too. Once you're curious about things, I know one of the questions, I forget to bring this up most of the time, but I remember asking myself this question, and it randomly dropped in my head, and I was like, interesting. And the question I asked myself was, well, how is it that when I'm asleep, I'm automatically breathing? How is it that when I'm asleep, my heart's automatically beating and I'm not telling it to like, how is it doing this? And I think that like things like that will start to kick off a lot of curiosity and like lead you down different, different pathways of knowledge and wisdom. And you're like, it's the fact that you're curious that's initiating these things. So absolutely, it's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely, yeah. I ask the same questions, and life is going to say, well, you asked a question, over there's the answer. Okay,
Absolutely.
I think I'll go over there, and then I'll ask another question. Well, over there's the answer to that one. Okay, let me go over there, that
Yep.
kind of thing, so. But anyway, I do have to go because my baby boy, my dog, he's 10 years old, and it's time for him to eat and go on his walk,
Absolutely.
you know. But I thank you so much for joining me and sharing this information. I hope everyone, if you missed this, you'll be able to, I'm going to tag him as a collaborator, so you can probably go to his page and it should be in his downloads. And if you miss this, it will also be in my Instagram, but you'll probably be able to find it easier on my YouTube. Not my YouTube, my Spotify.
Gotcha.
So,
And I
right?
appreciate you having me. Amazing conversation as always. And it was just amazing hearing your perspectives. You're so knowledgeable. I was watching all your videos on trauma, and I'm going to watch them again because they are amazing and very enlightening. So, I appreciate you and everything that you're doing, and I just look forward to seeing you evolve and us collaborating more in the future. It's going to be an amazing thing for certain.
Yes, it's definitely, definitely amazing. So, guys, follow him. Give them your call. Your
Yeah, my IG handle is Divine God with a zero, 33. So DIVINEG 0D 33.
Okay.
Um, and
Can they
yes, that's
find
where
you anywhere else? Are
you
you
can
on
find me
TikTok?
on YouTube. I'm not really on TikTok too much, but I am on YouTube at Applied Ascension, which is my brand. So yes, find me on YouTube at Applied Ascension. I gave you my Instagram, and this is where I'm at most of the time. And Threads also, I'm on Threads as well, which is the same handle as Instagram.
Okay, great. So everybody follow this gentleman. All right. He combines science with spirituality. He breaks it down to you. He he gives it to you straight, and then you get to take what resonates and leave what doesn't. He
Hmm.
can't make a decision for you, but he can make sure that you get the information, right?
Absolutely,
He doesn't say it's right or wrong. He just says, here it is, right?
absolutely,
Okay. Soul awakening with this conversation is the same way. I'm not saying right or wrong. I'm just saying take what resonates and then you go with the flow of what you need to create. Okay. Soul awakening with Sandra is here for you. So find out what you need and then you can find out what I do. And then we can connect. So everybody be blessed.
absolutely. Mwah. Love it.
Wholeness and balance. Love to you. Everybody.
Absolutely. You too.
Alrighty. And I'll get the collaboration. Give me a couple of hours
Yeah,
to
no,
just
no
get it
rush.
done.
Do your thing. Take care of
Okay.
your business.
Alrighty.
All right,
Take
bye.
care.
All right,
Bye
chat.
bye, everyone.